Creating accountability. I'm Bobby Sass, and this lesson is about creating accountability. And it's all about how to be self accountable. So, how do we keep ourselves accountable? The first thing is we need to get specific with your tasks. And in getting specific, what we really mean is breaking down your tasks into different time frames. This relates, of course, to the SMART goal setting system. The T in SMART is time framed, and the S in SMART is specific. So your goals will trickle down into smaller chunks that will become these tasks. When you complete a task, no matter how small it is, we have to celebrate. Celebrating these successes could be as simple as, oh, I finished this little thing. I got out of bed. You know, if you're having a rough day, sometimes getting out of bed is the thing that you need to celebrate. If you finished a major deadline at work, it's time to celebrate. And celebration is best if you plan the reward ahead of time so you have something to kind of work towards. And then when you get there, it's like you maybe go to your favorite restaurant, or you go for a hike, or you spend time with your favorite person, or you get your favorite beverage, those sorts of things. Um, the key here is that you're celebrating and that you recognize that you have achieved something that you set out to achieve. And in the process of achieving it, you kept yourself accountable. So that's what we have to celebrate. And in celebration, we also create a positive feedback loop where we connect with the dopamine receptors in the brain, and we start to learn, our nervous system, our brain starts to learn that keeping myself accountable is a good thing because I get this good benefit of a dopamine hit. The best way to set these tasks in timeframes at work is to actually schedule the time out. Now, I know a lot of us don't really like to micromanage our schedule, and this isn't about micromanaging. It's about taking a look at your week ahead, scheduling the times, even if they're general time frames, even if it's the first half of the day, the second half of the day, and then setting a reminder to check your progress. So it's not necessarily about setting a reminder to start, although I personally need reminders to start things. I have a busy schedule and I need to know when I need to start this certain task and when I need to finish it. But you don't necessarily have to set a reminder to check on whether you started, whether you did it or not. It's about setting reminders, say, hey, where am I at with this? How well have I progressed with this? And there are going to be obstacles. Every single one of us has obstacles in our way. And when we want to keep ourselves accountable, there are common obstacles like I don't want to do anything. I have no motivation. There are common obstacles like something has come up and it's taking me away from the plan. And how am I supposed to maintain accountability when now I have to change the plan? And in that process, what we can do is we hold ourselves accountable by saying, okay, well, I hold myself accountable by going back and resetting the plan, figuring out how I'm going to remake the plan in order to readjust after something new comes up. And I'd like you to work with your coach, with me, on analyzing what obstacles are standing in your way. Having a support network is very important with accountability. It can be as direct as, can I send you a text message when I start something, and then I'll send you a text message when I've finished it. That's level of accountability. An additional level of accountability is asking them after I send you the text, I need you to check back with me in an hour and say, have you done this? Those sorts of supportive structures can be very helpful. The other way to do this is to just simply have a once a week check in with someone that you trust and say, this is what I set out to do this week. This is what I was able to do. This is a common thing that you do with your coach, but if you want a different type of support, if it's more like you want a deeper type of emotional support, then maybe you check in with a therapist, check in with your loved one, check in with your close friend. All of those are part of your support network, not just your coach. And building practices is, of course, part of the three-step system, but the strategic practices that we build towards keeping ourselves accountable helps us to improve performance. And we'll get deeper into these sorts of practices once we really understand what our personality is and what sorts of practices are going to work with our individual personalities. Okay, there is a basic five-step process for accountability that I like to follow. There are many different types of practices for developing accountability. I think that this sets out a basic framework that most people can relate to and can climb on board with. So the first one, as I mentioned, is to identify those obstacles. Figure out what is going to stand in your way, what is going to prevent you from starting a task, finishing a task, working on a task, what is going to prevent you from starting to create your plan, getting into your calendar, what is going to keep you from doing that? And then finding motivation. Find the thing that motivates you to start your task. This could be your deeper purpose, purpose, practice, expertise. Remember the three-step system? It could be your deeper purpose, or it could be something as simple as I've set what I'm going to celebrate with. I know the reward, and that's what's going to motivate me. So there's different kinds of things that we can use to motivate ourselves in order to maintain accountability. And somewhat related to identifying obstacles is uncovering resistance to change. Because even though we've identified the obstacles, even though we found motivation, there are going to be times as we're implementing our accountability plan and our career transformation plan where we start to feel resistance to change. And it's about being mindful, right? And this goes back to the meditation, mindfulness type of practices, and being mindful in that state of I'm feeling anxious or angry or frustrated. I'm having some sort of negative emotion about this change. And that is a signal to ourselves that, I am resisting this. And then we need to get into uncovering what is causing that resistance. What in me, what in you impedes me from moving forward. So identify the obstacle, find the motivation, uncover resistance to change, check in with your progress. Accountability really comes down to whether or not we check in with ourselves, whether or not we are bold and strong enough to say to ourselves, okay, how did I do? Did I really get it done? Did I do it to the extent that I needed to do it? Am I dissatisfied with what I've done? Why am I dissatisfied? Remember, we have to be careful about chasing perfection. The a demonstration of progress is not that you've done something perfectly. It's that you have made progress, no matter how small your baby steps are, that you have made progress. And remember, celebrate the progress. Even if you didn't achieve the level that you wanted to achieve, still celebrate. Still give yourself that dopamine hit and say, hey, I did good enough because I tried and I made some progress. And don't forget that making mistakes is still progress because you get a chance to learn. Mistakes are an opportunity to learn. So check in with your progress. See if you did well, if you completed the task, then for real celebrate. If you made enough progress, take a break, reward yourself. Okay? And the fifth step is building this into a discipline. It's about creating habits. This is going to take time, and that's why it's the last step. It's going to take you time working through each of these steps to figure out what exactly your process is, what exactly works for you, what mechanisms help you to find motivation. How do you use mindfulness to uncover your resistance? How well did you identify your obstacles early on? Do you need some new techniques to identify obstacles? Are you continuing to check in with your progress? Are you really able to track how you've done over a period of time and then see the end result? Okay, so let's do a thought exercise. Think about your end result. What do you want out of this career transformation? What is it that you are looking to get from career coaching? And how will your desired end result benefit you? What are the benefits to you? because this comes down to motivation. If you can figure out how your end result is going to benefit you, that benefit is naturally a positive thing. Positivity helps to motivate us. It helps to reinforce the things that we have done because we feel that they are good things that we have done. So look at the vision and say, how will my end result benefit me? And what do you gain from overcoming your fears and real obstacles? Now, real is italicized here because real obstacles are different from fears, but they can commonly have the same types of outcomes for getting in the way. Fears are things that we feel are real obstacles, but they're not real obstacles. Real obstacles are that you have responsibilities. You have familial responsibilities, you have financial responsibilities, you have appointments that you need to maintain. Those are real obstacles to your accountability. There are really things that you need to schedule in, and when things change, out of things are out of your control, somebody says, I can't make this appointment, somebody cancels on you, those sorts of things. Those are real obstacles. But our fear, the anxiety caused by just anticipating a negative outcome, that's different. But they have the same effect. They keep us from moving forward. So think about, what do you gain from overcoming your fears and real obstacles? Can you build the career that you want without having a vision of it? So go into your mind's eye, close your eyes if you feel comfortable in doing this. Can you envision what your life looks like with your new career? Can you envision what your new career work environment is? Can you envision the people you work with? Can you envision yourself working with them? Can you envision yourself doing the daily tasks of this job? Can you envision the steps along the way to get to that job or that role? Can you build the career that you want without having that vision? I think the answer is pretty obvious here. The answer is no. So what I'm asking in this question is, if you can't build the career that you want without having a vision, then how are you going to build this vision? Can you envision it? Think about the last time that you set a goal and you kept yourself accountable and you achieved it, because this is going to give you the insight into how you can create your own 5-step process by analyzing what you have done well in the past. No matter how small the goal was, no matter how little you had to do to keep yourself accountable, no matter how small the achievement may feel to you, the process is going to be similar regardless of the size of the goal and the size of the achievement. Think about a time that you got knocked down, proverbially knocked down. Think about a time that you had a major setback or even a minor setback. How do you get back up after a setback? Can you give me some examples? What are your strategies for overcoming procrastination? Procrastination is one of the biggest obstacles to keeping ourselves accountable, because we don't have to keep ourselves accountable when we say, oh, we'll do it later. And so we delay the task and the accountability for it. But if we recognize that procrastination is the biggest obstacle to accountability, when we say, I want to procrastinate on this, I don't want to do this yet, I'll do it tomorrow. Recognize that that is the time to put into play your accountability process. That's an obstacle, procrastination. How are you going to find motivation to get through it? And then move through the other 5 steps. How did you contribute to someone else's accountability and goals? Think about a time in your career, in your family. Think about a time that you did something for somebody else because they were struggling to be accountable, because they wanted to achieve a goal, but they just couldn't quite get there themselves, right? When was a time that you helped them to get through that process? What did you do? How did you contribute to their success? Because what you do for others, you need to do for yourself. And when was the last time that you reassessed a goal? Part of this process is going back into your accountability process and saying, how have I done? Did I get the things done that I needed to get done? How well did I do them? What can I do better next time? When was the last time that you went through that process yourself? I'm sure that you've done it at some point, but come up with a concrete example of the last time that you reassessed a goal. The Four Tendencies by Gretchen Rubin is an interesting book about personality profiling. And it's a self help book, it's a New York Times bestseller. And I recommend that you read it if you're into this sort of reading, but you don't have to. I just want to give you the main takeaway from it. And without spoiling all of the book, the four tendencies are essentially that depending on our personality type, we tend to either meet or resist expectations. And expectations come in two basic forms: expectations outside ourselves, expectations from within ourselves. And Gretchen puts forward four different categories of personality profiles based on whether we resist or meet expectations and whether those are external or internal expectations. So, for example, the questioner is someone who resists outer expectations and meets inner expectations, or the rebel who resists both inner and outer expectations, or the obliger. There's someone who meets others' expectations, but they resist their own, and the upholder who meets expectations of others and of themselves. Now, there's not necessarily a hierarchy to these, but we do have our own value judgments about which we would prefer and which one is better than the other. And I ask you to reserve those value judgments and just try to look at this analytically and objectively and try to identify which one of these four types you think you might be. If you need some help, I believe on her website, on Gretchen Rubin's website, you can find a online tool to help you assess which one of these four categories you might fall into. There are some key skills for self-accountability. Self-accountability, first of all, has to be recognized as a term relating to me and to yourself. Accountability is not something that happens externally. You can get your support network to help you with some external accountability, but ultimately it comes down to you. You are the one that has to do the things you need to do in order to achieve your goals, and you are the one that has to reach out to others to help hold you accountable if that's what you need. So self-accountability is a self-reinforcing skill. It is a whole skill within itself. And that's the skill that we're building towards. The things that support self-accountability are planning and scheduling. How good are you at planning and scheduling? Could you use some help with those? How are your organizational skills? This relates to planning and scheduling, but it's a little bit different. You know, how well do you organize a plan and organize a schedule? Setting expectations. This comes back to the expectations of others and of yourself. Do you set expectations for others more easily? Do you set expectations for yourself more easily? Do you feel like you resist some of those expectations? Do you feel like you always meet those expectations? So setting expectations is an important part of this process. And the SMART goal setting system, for instance, tells us something interesting, which is that we need to set realistic goals, right? And so that might be a type of expectation we need to set, which is that I need to have a realistic expectation of how I'm going to accomplish this, when I'm going to accomplish it, and what I'm going to do to accomplish it. Motivation, key skill, and a critical part of the whole process. Positivity. Now, I don't mean toxic positivity. where it's just, oh, we'll just take the positive view on everything. That's just not the way humans are. We have a variety of emotions for a reason. It's not just so that we always try to pretend that we always feel good about something, or that we always find the silver lining in it, or that we always look at the bright side. But cultivating a positivity practice is part of a growth mindset. When we look at our lives as being abundant, we tend to feel grateful, and these are all positive things. And growth is generally associated with positivity, not negativity. We think about growth as being positive growth, not negative growth. So, positivity is an important skill. And if you tend to be more of a pessimist than an optimist, that's fine. That might be part of your personality. But it could also just be you're locked down in some unhelpful beliefs. And so, positivity is actually a skill, and we can cultivate this skill. Patience. Oh, patience is so hard to come by, but it is one of the most critical life and career skills out there. We don't necessarily have to be patient about everything forever, but being patient in the moment to moment, day to day kind of way, that patience is truly a skill, and it is what cultivates an experience of calmness throughout all of these stressful times of when we're making a career transformation or when we're just struggling to maintain our day to day in the current job that we're in. Candid and consistent feedback. When we look back at how we have done on something, are we being candid with ourselves, or are we being toxically positive? Are we always just trying to find, oh, well, I did good on this? I did. Like I said, being candid with yourself is not about damaging yourself. It's not about self flagellation. It's not about telling yourself that you are bad. When you make a mistake, it's an opportunity to learn, and that is positive. Learning is positive, opportunities are positive. Take advantage of them. But in order to do that, you have to be candid with yourself when you give yourself feedback, or accept that others in your support network may give you candid feedback as well. And if it doesn't feel constructive, take a moment to breathe and allow yourself to mindfully deal with the candid feedback later, because it's likely that it was constructive, even if you didn't hear it constructively when it was delivered. Consistent feedback is also key. So, developing this skill of looking at your own progress and giving yourself candid and consistent feedback is going to help you build your accountability process. Finding an exit. Finding an exit is about knowing when you are done and knowing when it's time to change, knowing when it's time to reconfigure your process. Finding an exit is an important skill, and it typically is only learned by making mistakes. So make sure that when you make a mistake, you take the opportunity to give yourself feedback on it, to learn from it, and think about how next time you can find an exit from making that mistake before it happens. Thank you for joining me for this self accountability lesson, and I'll see you in the next session.